You are listening to Kickspot.
All right, y'all. So, as we return to a very, very interesting and educational episode of ours, we are learning. I'm learning a ton, dude. Like, I'm learning that Karina's a medium for some reason, and no, it's been awesome to really kind of get a better understanding on like how your body just has interconnecting aspects to your health and your physical being, your mental, spiritual, and however else many being you guys have in your bodies, like how they all are connected,
Absolutely.
And so on our last part, we're gonna get a little bit more into Karina's work, and we're gonna be asking Karina a few things that me and Jinu found on her Instagram.
Yeah.
Jinu will have a topic that he's going to ask. I'm going to have a topic that I'm going to ask. So this is the first time I opened up your IG. I recently followed it about 5 minutes ago before we came back on.
So, Karina, I've been following it for a while, and we're grown-ass adults, so I'm going to get right into it.
Okay, so you go first.
And I want to ask a question.
Me.
This post that you talked about, the picture is on periods, period 101 for everyone. And
I'm sorry, what is it called?
The picture is on periods, period 101 for everyone.
Like menstrual cycle.
The menstrual cycle.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all grown-ass adults, and we're talking about the body and how everything interconnects with the spiritualness.
I am listening.
And it says, men, women, what is your relationship to periods like? Does your nose scrunch? Do you feel grateful? I obviously do not know much about the menstrual cycle, but it does play a role in the woman's body. And obviously, before the show, we had talked about how we all became alive because of the menstrual cycle. You just educated us on the fact that I guess the blood is like the cushion. But how does that relate to? All right. How does that relate to the work that you're doing?
And do guys have menstrual cycles?
So I recently heard that.
Please explain.
So it depends, right? Because there's gender, there's they. Like if you're born into woman body. I know that there are men that have periods. I don't necessarily know a lot about it. My friend recently started sharing with me about that.
Wow.
She's a lot more into that work, and LGBTQ communities and understanding that. Because based on what she was telling me, there are men, or they, I'm not sure if they identify as female or male.
Okay.
They is a term used for trans, and used within the LGBT community. But yeah, apparently there are they that do go into male restrooms and will sometimes be shamed because they have a period.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
Huh.
So we were saying in regards to periods. What was your specific question?
Just how that plays a role as a body coach. I know obviously that has to do with the body, but how does it physically as a whole, I guess, with the spiritual aspect of everything? How does it interconnect?
First I want to start out by saying thank you for bringing up this topic and also introducing it in that way, and also letting everyone know what I just shared previously. Like, it is so taboo in our culture, and even a lot of women have learned to not like their period and hate it every month. And all the media, if you look at it, it's constantly making you want to be over it. It's this constant cycle of
that's true.
Wanting to be on your period, or it's dirty, So I appreciate you mentioning that. Yes, if a woman doesn't have a period, she can't get pregnant and give birth. So when we were in our mother's womb, the period was our cushion, and it's because of the period that we are able to be formed in there. And then we come out with it. We're bathed in it. So if it doesn't become more normal than that, and people know that and still have some icky feelings around it, it's like, okay. So period, specifically to body work, I haven't necessarily worked with someone that has been having period complications, though I will be working with someone this month that has been having period complications.
Awesome.
But from my experience, menstrual cycle, the menstrual cycle basically follows the same cycle as a moon. So there's a new moon, then there's a full moon. woman, every 2.5 days we shift. Typically, most women cycle every 2.5 days. We're constantly shifting in our cycle. We're following the moon cycle. And when it comes to menstruating days, it was actually practiced in a lot of cultures that when women would menstruate, they would leave, and they would call them the red tents. Women would leave the village. That's a time that women, we are very intuitive. There's like this extra intuition, and when you do have your period, you're like releasing what you went through previously in that cycle. And that's been my experience in a lot of different ways. A lot of times I notice that whatever I'm going through, like when I do have my period, when I'm menstruating, whatever I went through that month, I'm releasing it. And typically cramps, and I learned that through, recently I had a 14-week pilot, Clear and Protect, which we can talk about that more later. But when sadness came up, I was actually on my bleeding days, and I was experiencing a lot of cramps that were interconnected to sadness.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, I'm like, I have a lot of cramps. I'm like, what's going on? And it was sadness that I needed to release. I was kind of supporting my body to cry. But yeah, that's a great question about periods. And yeah, women, it's a time, it's an invitation. It's literally our bodies telling us like, hey, you've been going through this cycle. It's an opportunity for you to like just relax. And in regards to having sexual encounters with someone, I've actually noticed that
I literally was about to ask that. I swear to God. I was like, what
Perfect.
about having sex? Like, can you not do it?
Oh,
Like,
during your period? I don't know. I haven't looked into that or thought about that. Like, if you should or you shouldn't. I don't know necessarily. But I did want to say that if you did, women, we take on energy, like just generally, and this is something I learned through like women's teachings that I did a few years back. Women, we naturally take males and other people's energy, especially when you do have sex. So that's why a lot of times if you do have like a one night stand with someone, it might turn into like they're constantly wanting more from you, and like men might be like, well, that was just a one night stand, like, dude, and women, a lot of times we think that we can be men and do that, but in reality we take on and no, sometimes you can, it depends how much you've honored yourself, but sometimes you take on this person's energy literally, and if the person's negative, like you might feel more negative. I definitely have had that experience. But one thing that I've identified for myself, if I do happen to have like a sexual encounter with someone and then my period comes, that's also an opportunity for me to let go of their energy, which is so freaking cool. Whereas like previously, women, we take on a man's energy, and it could literally be in our aura, which is our energy field, for the rest of our lives.
so hold on.
Usually it's like, hey, I have my period. Phew. Right? Like,
Yeah,
it's like, oh, I don't have a kid or anything like that. But what about from the body's perspective, like let's say like stress and having irregular periods? I think
Irregular or regular?
Irregular.
Oh, that's yeah. I think you nailed it. I think that's really interconnected to stress, and like honoring your own cycle too. Like I wonder intuitively right now, it's hitting me that it might also have to do with you having a hard time letting go.
So Karina, you're saying after having, like, let's say having sexual encounter with somebody, you're saying once you get your period, that's a way for you emotionally, spiritually, that you let go of that person?
That's been my experience, and I've been able to do that, I think, because of the relationship that I've developed with
like
my body.
Like emotional, letting them go emotionally. Like,
Yeah.
peace, dude. Like, you ain't gonna see me again. I'm done.
Well,
like that.
your relationship with them could be different. That's something that I think because of the way that I've learned to honor my menstrual cycle, and it's not just like, oh, it's a dude I want to let go. No, like every month I identify the theme that I just went through, and I see it integrated.
I was like, you're a savage for doing that. Like,
No,
later, dude. Like,
no,
I'm letting you go.
No, but
Got another period.
Yeah.
no.
I wanted to clarify.
Yeah. Thank you for asking for
yeah.
clarification. No, but I brought that up because women, we do naturally, and we are designed to take on the male's energy, and that's actually something sacred. Like I remember when I first learned about this, I was in college, and I was like, that's fucked up, because I was a way more hardcore feminist, like men and women are the same. But now that I've learned about the purpose of that, it's actually beautiful. The purpose why women do take on the male's energy is because back in the day, you know, we were in the caves and out in the, you know, the male would leave to go hunting. And while the male was gone, the woman in her energy field, the male's energy was there. So the baby felt the dad was close.
Oh, crazy.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's actually like the intention behind that, why we have that. But because we don't know it, like we think we can just, you know, sometimes have sexual encounters with anybody. And then sometimes women, from what I've heard from my male friends' experiences and also from women, a lot of times they do feel emotionally attached to people.
So with social media on the rise, right? And we see all the memes, let's be real, right? And it seems like there's a lot more women that could just let go emotionally of their partners. Is that like it, do you feel like nowadays, like, you know, we're talking about menstrual cycle and stuff like that, like do you feel like women are more apt to letting their male partners go easier than
Maybe in tune with their body more?
yeah, they're more in tune with their body. I mean, because you hear all these girls, right? Like, no, I want to do what I want to do. It's my body. I want to do what I want to do, right? Like, for the most part. Like, I feel like their mindset has shifted more to that way of thinking than how it was before, where there's a lot more, I would say, conservatism, you know?
Or shame within the body.
Now it's like, no, this
you're
is
having
me.
sex
Like,
with everybody.
Yeah, like, no, I'm like, I want to do that. Like, you know, like, I feel like women are more in that mindset now. Like, how do you feel about that?
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
That's a whole other conversation.
Oh,
like,
snap. All right, maybe we need another segment.
Yeah, we won't go that deep for that because period did come up, and I want to make sure that I am honoring, like, in relationship to the work that I do. I want to clarify that's not necessarily available for everyone, because we did talk about cramps. Cramps typically, it's like, you know, for me, it's like the wasp. You could feel the wasp, like, shedding the blood.
Yeah.
And I will come back to what you asked, but I just want to make sure that we come back to, like, this is kind of the line of what we're talking about. I just brought in that extra stuff for women that do hate their periods, or which is majority of women, I feel, or do not want to have it or whatever. You know, I know some women will get on birth control so they don't get a period. I brought that up to share, like, there is an opportunity that's actually happening every month for you to shed whatever cycle you just completed. And also there is that other bonus that if you are that in tune, you could actually shed the energy of someone, which is great. But to answer your question, I think there are so many components to that. Like, on a lot of ways, you know, I love, for me personally, I love relationships, and I love learning about, like, the feminine and the masculine energies within us, which we do explore within ourselves and our body and the body work that I do. But just collectively, like, women, we have become a lot more like men. And it's been, for myself, like, I know growing up, like, the society we live in has learned to put men in a different place. And I remember when I was little, I used to love playing sports because I used to beat guys. Like, that was my thing, you know? And I was that kind of woman that was, like, more in my masculine. But yeah, I don't know that that's women's truth necessarily, like, their emotions. I think women and men alike, we've learned to override our emotions. So I don't think that's really true, and I'd be happy to have a whole other segment on that specifically.
Well, the next time you come back, we won't ask you questions about Mexico. That's for damn sure.
So, Migs, you have a post up as well, too, that you like to talk about.
Yeah, so, you know, scheming through the Instagram, you had this post called Clear and Protect, a journey of the GI tract and letting go. I mean, it seems like it's a constant message throughout our show with you. It's the art of letting go. So can you kind of describe and give a little bit more definition and clarity on what that meant, that post?
Yeah, so Clear and Protect was actually a series I did, a 14-week pilot I did from June to, like, September. It recently finished, and the intent with Clear and Protect, so one of my goals is to support people in developing that mind-body connection on their own. Like, not necessarily on their own, but guide them. How can they do it constantly? So the Clear and Protect segment focus on different organs, different emotions associated with that organ, guiding people from the cognitive experience with that specific emotion, supporting their body with pressure points, which you both started off earlier by highlighting that your mom taught you pressure points in your culture, you use them. And then supporting the body and continuing to open up by doing different postures to support it to those specific organs to release, and then guiding people through a meditation to have the full digestion and release of that emotion and experience. So Clear and Protect was a pilot series I did, a 14-week long, focusing on different organs and different emotions.
Was it mostly the GI tract?
No, it was we focus on the liver, which stores anger. We focus on the pericardium, which is not an organ, but it is, the pericardium is basically this like muscle tissue that is around the heart, the physical heart, and it's interconnected with our emotional side of our ability to expand our heart. The role that the pericardium serves is to hold the heart in place, the physical heart, and also the emotional heart. If you have too many emotions, your pericardium basically supports your heart in place so that it's not affected. Like, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but when you are emotionally like entangled up in something, or you're too much, you don't. Or like tangled up in something. Oh my God, yeah.
Entanglement.
You're super tangled up in a situation and you have too many emotions. You might not be able to meet the person in front of you, be more vulnerable. Like, that is your pericardium protecting your heart, because you already have a lot of emotions you haven't dealt with, that it cannot expand to receive more possible moment of vulnerability.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just sharing about the pericardium to share a little bit, so we focus on different organs. That was what Clear and Protect was. So that's great you asked about it.
Yeah, because I see gallbladder, which represents resentment, and then you had large intestines that represented sadness, and then you had the stomach represented worry, and then I believe the last one was small intestine that represented joy. So is that like the journey? So you start from the gallbladder all the way down to the small intestine, and you just release joy? Is that
pooping? Is that like another word for pooping, or? No, I'm being serious. Like, is that just like a way of saying let's release everything out?
So the large intestine basically is supporting large intestine sadness. There's different emotions correlated to different
organs.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And so when I planned this out, we did the yin organs first, which is like the feminine, and then we did the yang organs.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So
like
what are the yin and yang organs?
Oh my God, off the top of my head, so we first did, oh my God.
Was it the gallbladder?
You might have to provide a note with that, because they're not all in my head right now.
Okay. That's so cool.
But yeah, so we did we did first, and I think I didn't actually really plan to do that. This was a pilot.
Yeah.
To first do the feminine organs and then the other organs, which most of the yang organs are like letting go, like the digestive tract and all of that. But yeah, we didn't plan specifically how to process it. I will be launching this in 2021, the official program.
That's tight.
Yeah, so
Heard it here first.
exactly. Yeah.
Premiere.
Yeah, so so that practice itself, it's really sweet. It's literally, we would host it every Sunday.
Oh, cool.
And I would also host Zoom social hours the Friday before to talk more about that emotion and the experience and how people experience it in their body. It was so beautiful. Our last one, we had 16 people attend. So it was really sweet. But yeah, the whole purpose of that is to empower you and also support you and starting to even develop that relationship with your body and tapping different, oh, this is for this. The pericardium is literally here. And sometimes my body will just start doing stuff on its own. So then if you do attend these classes, you have it accessible.
Did you get this information by reading on your own? How did you figure out all the body, what it relates to, I guess?
So in the beginning, it was kind of mostly happening. I was working with different clients and I'm like, okay, body, what do we want to focus on? It was kind of coming, the spleen one came like that. And then later on, my teammate and I, my business partner or consultant was like, okay, what about if we just plan it out? And then we planned it out and I did research. Yeah. And I also tuned in a lot to my own experience, which is a lot of what I do. even my friend that does my website for me, like he knew to check in on me when it was sadness, because I really allow myself to go deeply into every experience. But yeah, so it was like researching and also learning about the different organs, but also like very much allowing my body to share different information, you know, like stomach and worry. I had to also work with the client, and like the information to stomach and worry came to me like 3 weeks before we did stomach.
Yeah. Now you mentioned in 2021 that you have these goals to create like a 14-day program. That was correct, right? A 14-day program?
The Clear and Protect was a 14-week program, but we're
14 weeks,
actually,
okay.
it's going to be extended. The details are not super highlighted yet, but I know based on our experience, like we need longer to focus on each emotion and support people. So I'm not sure if it will, like how the releasing or digesting of it or the offering will look like, but we will be focusing on that more, an extension of that basically.
And that's awesome. What would you say is your goals, or what are your goals for the future within the next 5 years, 10 years from now?
So definitely the next 5 years, I want to really continue to do a lot more one-on-one. As you've noticed, a lot of what I do has been kind of hard to like get my message across. Is like, shoot, we go really deep. Like, how do I tell people this, you know? And that's also a lot of my clients' experience. I'm like, how would you share this? Sometimes they'll be like, I don't know. Like, I just know I feel good. So one of that is really stepping more into this role and really owning what I do, to do a lot more one-on-ones. And in 5 years, definitely, I want to have a lot more offerings online. Like, you know, whether it's that Clear and Protect or an extension of that, I want to have a lot more offerings for people when they go on my website, to have things accessible throughout the world. And I want to travel more and make these, you know, this wisdom accessible to people, because we all have it. It's just like, we just need a reminder of it. And I think that's my role, is to like, hey, we're going to do this. And then we do it. And then once, the thing about this that I freaking love and how empowering it is, you do not need to buy anything. You know, it's not like, hey, you need to come to my class, like you need to buy this, or you know, it's like, it's tools you have available, and because they're always there, you're always going to be able to do this work.
So
absolutely.
If someone, like another young lady, comes up to you and be like, hey, you've inspired me to be like you, like and it's like, I want to learn from you, like, is this something that you would be willing to kind of share, like your practices, and start developing some sort of like a training regimen for, you know, anybody, not just like maybe young girls, but anybody that wants to be in the same, you know, world that you're in?
Definitely. And that's 100%. And the way that would look, I don't know right now. I don't know how I feel about specific trainings, because I know everyone has different gifts. So I would definitely do like a one-on-one, whether it's like a year thing, to help them continue to expand and support their own gifts. A lot of people have different ways they see information. Some people like will see colors and bodies and will know, like I know my specific ones, and I've actually already started doing that. Like I'll sometimes lay down and I'll tell my sister like, okay, this body, and I'll refer to my body as like this body. I'm like, this body needs this. And I'll guide her how to, and also my parents recently, I'll guide them how to support their body so they can show up and support mine.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's a great question. Yes, definitely. I believe 100% that everyone has different unique gifts to help kind of support the same process. So as of now, my training would look more like a one-on-one, and continuing to help them with their own discovery, because that's really how I learned. Was like, I had all these injuries. It was like, I need to heal myself.
Yeah, you literally discovered everything on your own. Like you really did. It's the craziest thing.
And if people want coaching from you, where can they reach out to you? What's the website first, you said?
It's www.karinarodriguez.space.
.space, okay.
Yeah, or they could also follow me on Instagram. I am Karina.Rodriguez.
Okay, perfect. And for anybody that's listening, and for those people following our social media, we'll also link Karina's social media and her website on our page, so you can
100%.
go and follow her as well.
Learn more about these items.
And I wish we had, you know, a few hours to talk about everything, because talking about the body, the spiritual, like just everything, there's a lot. So Karina, we're going to have to bring you back in the future, and then just go over all those things, especially like some of the other topics that we wanted to talk about and get into.
Like I wanted you to get into his elbow and all that, and tell me like what's wrong with him.
Yeah, I know. I got elbow issues, but I really appreciate it. And you gave us a little bit more clarity on body, the body coach.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, when people look at it now, they're probably a little bit confused, to be quite honest, because it's not a position that's out there. I mean, in the past, they used to have like a electric manager. An electric manager in like the 70s would go out and just literally turn off the energy because it was such a waste. They created a position for that. So as the world evolves, and you know, there's a lot of people trying to figure out their body and their mental state, there are going to be people that are going to be body coaches, and you're going to be one of the OGs to really start that, and you're figuring out a path. And so we're very excited for your future.
Yep.
And we want to see where you go from here. We want to see 5 years from now you teaching everybody, and everybody's perfectly aligned with their body and their spiritual self. So we really appreciate
Yes, we do.
you,
Thank you so
getting
much.
on the show with us. And then,
100%.
like I said, we'll have to bring you back. And so we're just going to end the show here. Thank you, Kickspotters.
Dudes.
Thank you, Karina.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Kickspot.